Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to 2026. This year, we would like it to be the year of real, meaningful, and lasting change. And one of the areas we want to focus on would be the area of holding that all leaders should be accountable to the people of Zimbabwe. We would also want to focus on how are we going to bring about meaningful political change in Zimbabwe. And I think we need to explain here that Zimbabwe, the people of Zimbabwe realized as far back as the late 1990s that Zanu PF was a dictatorship. It had accrued for itself dictatorial powers, allowing it to rig elections and stay in power. Real change would only come if we could elect opposition leaders who will deliver democratic changes necessary to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. I believe that was the right decision. But I also now want to emphasize to the nation that after 25 years of MDC-CCC in power, why have we failed to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections? And I believe that is the democratic change that we should be focusing on. We have been slow in accepting that the MDC-CCC leaders have failed, have proven to be corrupt, incompetent, and utterly useless. They failed to implement even one token reform in 25 years on the platform, on the political stage, including the 5 years in the GNU when they had the greatest opportunity to do so. And ever since the GNU debacle, the MDC-CCC leaders are the ones who have insisted in participating in flawed elections, telling people idiotic lies like we've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes, Zanu PF will not rig the elections. Only for Zanu PF to do exactly that, rig the elections. So at the present moment, if we are serious about meaningful political change in Zimbabwe, we have got to go back to the resolution of the 1990s, where we said we wanted an opposition leaders who will implement the democratic changes to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. If MDC-CCC guys have failed to do so, we need to accept that reality and elect competent MDC or opposition leaders who will implement those reforms. As I said, we want 2026 to be the year of a real democratic change in Zimbabwe, and not just talk. This is why we are focusing on MDC leaders' failure, because people need to understand, to accept that there is need to elect competent opposition. Welcome to the program, Benjamin.
Good day to you and Happy New Year to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. The MDC Triple C leaders have been playing the victim card for a very, very long time. And people need to understand they are not victims. They are part and parcel of Zanu PF. I've often spoke about the dangerous similarities between the two. To me, it's very, very difficult to differentiate between Zanu PF and Triple C MDC. It's very difficult. The way they operate, the statements that come out, they blame everybody around them but themselves. Zanu PF will run with sanctions and so forth, you know, and be doing some ridiculous things on the side. The same with MDC Triple C, you know. They will be claiming cars. They will be telling you that it is our hard fought, you know, seats and liberated zones. And then at the end, they tell you ZANU PF doesn't give us anything. Why then do you continue participating if you know the result? Actually, for 25 years, you've been doing the same thing. We, we got to look at this and be real with ourselves, especially the people of Zimbabwe. We have to be realistic. We have to call a spade a spade. 2026, that is already 26 years of MDC Triple C doing absolutely nothing. And they still call themselves change champions. Just like Zanu PF, they will tell you Zimbabwe is booming, is growing. They only can see that. We can't. The MDC is exactly the same. They've called themselves change champions. And if you ask them, what have you changed? Absolutely nothing.
Well, would like to listen to a video clip where the journalist Blessed Nkanga is putting that very question to the opposition, to one of the opposition leaders many people will be very familiar with, Ostalos Sisiba.
A path to your station of choice you have controlled.
My apologies, we seem to have lost sound there. I don't know why. Sorry, Ben, you can go ahead while I try to fix this.
I must say, I agree with your opening statement. When you say this is a new year, this is a year that we take a hard look at ourselves, especially the people of Zimbabwe. I mean, in the late 90s, we came to the realization that there was a need for us to change the status quo. Zimbabwe was a one party state and still is a one party state. And the start was good. And I sincerely believe, the MDC, as their name suggested in the first place, the movement for democratic change, was to implement reforms. But because of popularity, and that popularity later led to greed, they lost track and focus on the number one objective, which were reforms. And up to today, not even one reform has been implemented. So clearly, after 25 years, it's failed. We have to call it a spade a spade. They have failed. And I think it is time where, we should look for an alternative or create an alternative, because I don't think it's just going to fall from out of the blue. We will have to create that alternative.
Let me try it again. Let's hope this time it'll work. Oh dear. Seems like we are out of luck. But in this interview, just to give a summary of what the interview was about, Ostalos was asked, why have you been participating in Florida? Why have you failed to deliver services? And he split it into two. He accepted that there are external factors, and these he attributed to Zanu PF. And he had actually the watershed point where he said when Elias Mzuri was the executive mayor of Harare, he had executive powers. But as soon as he was elected, Zanu PF government engineered so that all executive authority was taken away from local government and given to the Minister of Local Government. And he goes on to say even the present local authorities do not have powers to purchase even toilet paper. Now, that point, many people would relate to, and they've understood that. And if we are to be perfectly honest, those were some of the democratic changes that the people of Zimbabwe wanted the opposition to implement. Those are the reasons why the opposition, the people have risked everything to elect the opposition. So if you have failed to deliver democratic changes in those areas, it's no surprise that Zanu PF continues to be belligerent. The question then is, why are you keeping participating in these flawed elections when you know you have no meaningful power? Zanu PF is still a belligerent, tyrannical regime. More so when you had the opportunity to stop Zanu
Why
PF.
should they trust you?
Zanu PF, and yet you fail to do so. This is the reality that most people in Zimbabwe are finding very difficult to reconcile, and rightly so too. You cannot have it both ways. And I think when push comes to shove, we have to accept that the opposition had the opportunity to implement the democratic reforms. They did not, because Robert Mugabe bribed them with the trappings of high office, and they forgot about the reforms. And they've been participating in flawed elections, knowing fully well that they are flawed, out of greed. That point has been made several times on this program, and we cannot run away from it. That is the reality. And to pretend otherwise is naive. In other words, what we have in the form of the opposition in Zimbabwe is a corrupt, highly compromised political opposition that has been participating in these flawed elections to give Zanu PF legitimacy and thus perpetuate the dictatorship. That is the reality that the people of Zimbabwe, as much as some of our people are refusing to accept it, that is the reality we as a nation must accept.
Then he goes on to further explain and say, in 2023, they had, composed a group of individuals that were, highly educated individuals that would deliver on the reforms that were needed. And the person that stopped this whole thing from going or happening was Chavangu. This guy really takes us as fools. Do you mean to tell me that from 2000 right up to 2023, MDC, Triple C, were sending to Parliament idiots? Because that is exactly what it sounds like, that this time we had the right people and we had everything set for the reforms. That's what he says. And if it wasn't for Chavangu, we would have done everything in terms of the reforms needed. So, in actual words, you're saying previously you could not do it because you were sending people that were incapable of doing the job. And I think that is a very, very flimsy excuse. One excuse after the other. They should, I think, when it comes to reforms, we shouldn't have been talking about them now. It should have been something that should have been done a very, very long time. And I believe the first group could have done it at any point. Particularly, we keep referring to the GNU, and that was the golden opportunity, where the whole environment, political environment in Zimbabwe was somewhat stable and was actually in their favor. But then if you look at history and how history records itself, and if we do not alter it, you will find out that it was actually the MDC Triple C that stopped reforms from going through. One, they never tabled any reform. Two, when they were reminded by SADC about the reforms, they went and reported SADC to Mugabe. And we all know that Mugabe was the one that later swore at the SADC lady that had been sent to remind the MDC. And three, when they were in Maputo, they were warned not to go into another election in 2013, sorry. And it was the MDC themselves that pushed that they wanted those elections. And lo and behold, Zanu PF gave them the elections and they rigged them. So no matter how much you want to spin it, Ostilas is lying. And he is lying just, to take the people for fools, to try and corner us into participating in 2028. But I've got news for him. And if he looks around him, you will see that this sympathy card is up. The people of Zimbabwe are slowly but surely seeing MDC Triple C for who they are. Conmen, incompetent, and utterly useless. And pretty soon, the whole jig will be up. They will be tossed away because of their failure, their greed, and so forth.
In my closing remarks, I would say that the people of Zimbabwe have been slow in realizing that the MDC Triple C have become Zanu PF Team B in all but name. They failed to implement reforms even when they had the golden opportunity to do so. And they've been calling people to participate in flawed elections, knowing fully well that Zanu PF was rigging, and that participating will only give Zanu PF legitimacy. They've been doing it out of greed. I would like people to start thinking of MDC Triple C as nothing other than the soft underbelly of the beast. As much as they were supposed to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections, they are now the ones who are helping Zanu PF to rig elections and get away with it. Our task is to make sure that they do not do that. We have got to convince the 2 million or so Chamisa Chete Brigade members that Chamisa is a liar and is a conman, and that participating in flawed elections, which people have done these last 45 years, has accomplished nothing. What we need is a competent opposition. And these people, if they stop supporting Chamisa and participating in these flawed elections, we will deny Zanu PF legitimacy. In other words, MDC Triple C leaders are nothing but the soft underbelly of the beast. Let me tell you now, if we are trying to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections, you attack the soft underbelly and you stop the regime getting away with rigged elections. Stop Chamisa and company giving Zanu PF legitimacy, and Zanu PF will be forced into a new GNU in which they will not emerge this time with all the dictatorial powers. I go back to the original statement. 2026, must be the year of real change in Zimbabwe. And this is the first step to real change. MDC Triple C leaders must be made accountable. People must realize that these MDC Triple C leaders are corrupt, incompetent, liars, and conmen. If people do realize that, we will be on our way to achieving meaningful and lasting change in Zimbabwe. we will be pushing this issue on this platform for the next 2 years, 2026, 2027, and 2028 itself. We can achieve meaningful change in Zimbabwe. We just need to know what we should be doing and do it. Think about it. Thank you very much, those of you who were able to join us. I hope you'll be able to join us again tomorrow, same time, 6 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. And if you'd like to join us and have your say, please do so on Saturday or Sundays. And the link is shown at the bottom of your screen there. We use the same link for those discussions. So if you save it, you'll be able to use it anytime. Saturdays, 6 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. Thank you very much for joining us. And I sincerely hope that 2026 will be indeed the beginning of real meaningful change in Zimbabwe. The year when we finally started to do something to end the Zanu PF dictatorship and restore good governance in the country. Thank you and good night.